maximum amount of people you've bonked in one day?
22.
So, Bonnie, you've been everywhere in the media lately for bonking men for free. What's the maximum amount of people you've bonked in one day?
22. That was at spring break.
Wow. Okay.
That was a sore night, to be
I was
honest.
going to say, that's exhausting.
So can you talk us through that? Like, what happened? How was that set up?
Yeah, so I basically shared my hotel room online.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, this is the room I'm staying in. Like, just come and queue up. And I'll see as many of you as possible, like, whilst I'm here. Because when I went to spring break, loads of guys was like, oh, I've messaged you to film with you. And I couldn't get through, like, all of the messages. Like, and I've said before, like, I've only got so many holes and so much time. Like, I physically could not film with everyone I wanted to. So on the last night, I was like, right, I'll just let them queue up. I'll just go one after the other. Yeah. And that's basically what I did.
And so how long from start to finish did that all take?
So I think I put the post at about 6 p.m. their time. And like, we finished, it must have been like 4 or 5 a.m.
What?
That's insane.
And it was so funny. It's like during the videos, you hear people knocking on the door, like you hear like other groups of lads outside
waiting.
Yeah.
Was there like a queue outside the hotel room? Was the hotel like, what the fuck's going on here?
That's what I was going to say.
I don't think they clicked on, and because it was spring break, the hotel's honestly disgusting. Like the room didn't get clean once. The food was vile. Like I don't think me entertaining the guys in my bedroom was their biggest concern. It was probably the cockroaches and everything else.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so bad.
It was disgusting.
How much did she make?
She didn't say anything about any money. It almost sounded like it was just a random activity, a sport, a thrill.
It was pro bono.
Pro bono. Funny as hell. I mean, she obviously a whore. And she, I mean, like a real legit prostitute. So shit, she should have at least been charging like $300-400 for the event. They should have made it a whole thing. So she could have tried. What's 22 times 400? Like 16,000. It's like around 18,000. Shit, if she on OnlyFans, she's selling pussy. That's what she do. Shit, I can't. Hoes go home. It ain't really much I can say about that. She ain't even the one. Shit, that's not even. You seen that lady who fucked like 1,000 dudes over 3 days?
Yeah,
that's impressive.
So
like as far as hoeing
breaking
goes, she not even
the Guinness book. But they was never mind.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, as far as hoeing go, that's not even like spectacular hoeing. Like shit, she.
Not that's subpar hoeing.
That's like
that's a good night on the stroll. What they call it on the blade.
On the blade. Yeah, that's not even because obviously this is when we talk about a prostitute. Like a prostitute go be a prostitute. She just bogus if she didn't get paid. That's silly.
I think it's more like promotional, like just so fans can kind of get in touch. You know what I'm saying? Like that type deal. So
you supposed to give out one freebie, not 22. You supposed to say, "Hey, I'm over here doing this," and let that one customer know.
Not supposed to do a raffle.
People.
A raffle?
She should have did something else other than that. Like that should have never. I heard Lord Sherm say, "We can't tell what's gonna happen with our kids. That shit ain't happening with my kids." I'm sorry.
I mean, it ain't gonna be no 22 dudes. That's the damn show. You know, I ain't saying that. But my whole point was like, you know, you just never know what your children are gonna do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you just got to do the best you can and just rock with it. You know, like nobody ever looked at a baby and said, "Damn, it's possible that this child is gonna be a damn porn star one day getting banged by 22 dudes."
You know how you could. What's a good predictor of shit like that? Incest. Sexual assault.
I mean, you really can't define it, bro, because sometimes people that don't even
in love with an abusive man
turn out to be
where there's no breaks, where the father could come in or any man could come in and kind of stop that. Like most of the strippers I know throughout my life, they all was sexually assaulted. Like 95%. Shit like that either makes people devalue sex to the point where they get that shit away like cookies, or they become extremely prudish and they separate themselves from sex. They normally don't have a I'm gonna remain normal attitude to it. If I was to guess, something traumatic happened to that girl when she was younger, and it made her disassociate the value of sex with herself, and she just freely get that shit away, and she no longer cares. If I was to guess, and as a father, right now, my kids leave the house. So you don't know this about me, but my kids been with me every single hour of the day except for 2 days when I went to a wedding for the last 5 years. They not allowed to leave from out my presence until all of them can talk. Me or my wife presence until all of them can talk. And when they come home, they come and give me a report on everything they did, if they had fun, and if they had any problems with anybody. Every last time they come in and out the house. So when I'm saying like that's why I say I highly sincerely doubt that the trauma needed to form that is going to be able to fester in my children.
Yeah, but it is
Marcus,
like,
would you bet your life on it?
Yeah, I bet my life on it. Because either way, if somebody touched my kid and put that trauma on them, my life end that day anyway if I get caught. So it is what it is.
I'll second that. Listen, that's one of those things, man. You just do, like you said, Sherm, yeah, you do the best that you can, but you also have to understand the best that you can goes a long way when you're really doing it the right way. You know, you teaching these children values to value themselves. If they realize that that's dishonorable and they carry themselves, you know, because they're cut from a certain cloth, then that's not something that you normally gonna have to really be worried about. Now, when it comes to what Marcus was saying about the assault, I've interviewed multiple women that's in the business, OnlyFans models, whatever the case may be, and they always talk about sexual trauma, sexual assault at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like when they were little, even if they didn't think it was sexual assault, I heard it. You know what I mean? Just because you think, oh, it was your babysitter that was only like 5-6 years older than you. You ain't look of it like assault at the time. That's just, you were assaulted. You know what I mean? Like you were assaulted. Yeah, you a successful adult entertainer now, but you don't think that helps shape you. You know what I mean? Where you disassociate the value of sex and you feel like, hey, I could just do it for money. You gonna pay me for it? Cool. I give it away anyway. So I've seen it. I completely agree, man.
I mean, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of women that get sexually assaulted, period, without even becoming sex workers, bro. Like that's a staggering statistic. You know,
Right.
I interview women on. I have a mental health podcast, Militant Grind. I interview plenty of women that's been sexually assaulted that are, you know, corporate professionals. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like
that don't mean they not hoes.
Bro, I mean, I don't know what anybody does.
You know what I'm saying?
Those doors. I can't say who's a hoe and who's not. You know what I'm saying? Like
that ain't the point I was making wasn't that it.
You kind of cut out, man, White. No, I think we might have lost the signal.
I want to just, because I'm not trying to paint victims as they just gonna become hoes. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that the people who were like that, a lot of it came from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
something just confused me. You said you interviewed them, but you were not able to put a solid critique on them when challenged lawsuit. Did you even ask or delve in deep enough to find out if they had an alternate lifestyle or if they had fetishes? So did you do, what was it, a PG interview, or was it a
no, bro, they just sharing their story. I don't ask them what they do when their personal life sexuality now, you know, like sexually now. I don't have a sexual, you know, let's talk about sex podcast. You know what I'm saying? It was just interviewing them about
you said that was the crux of what you were asking them. So that would
no,
be
they shared their story
questions.
and said that they've been sexually abused.
And you never broached it, being the journalist.
I never what?
Broached. Went deeper into it.
No.
Being that it was presented.
That it was presented, I let them tell their story, but the whole basis is mental health. How'd you overcome it? What are you doing now? I'm not gonna go in. So did you go in bars and, you know, get drunk and have sex with guys? Like, I'm not asking them questions like that. That's not the premise.
That's not the premise of that show. Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't ask them about nothing dealing with cutting grass, not getting good dick from a pookie, nothing like that either, right?
No, sir.
Okay, fair enough.
And let me put this out here real quick, and I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer of the group, but in my experience, there's a lot of liars out there. So when we throw out things like, a lot of women been sexual assault is shameless. Like nobody's gonna be like, oh my God, how what'd you do? It's like if somebody was to attribute themselves to being sexually assaulted, it's always met with open arms and consolement. But lazy and bad choices that's shameful. So just Shan being Shan, and you guys know how I am and where I stand. Oftentimes women will lie and attribute trauma that they never experienced just to avoid accountability in other failures of their lives. Not saying anybody that you guys talk to is lied. Just know, fellas, when you speaking to people, you got to listen objectively, because a lot of people will say that they've gone through shit that they never went through just so you can be like, oh, I understand why you are a hoe or a slut or a failure or ain't got no money or didn't make bad, or you had a baby, or you didn't do this, or you didn't listen to this, or you ignored everybody. Oh, that's what happened to you. And then come here and we pat them on the back, and them motherfuckers are sitting there lying to you straight face or lying to you with full crocodile tears. So
Shannon,
just want to put that out there, that a lot of women lie. Go ahead.
So Shannon, real quick, let me ask you something. You never take what somebody tell you at face value?
I try to. And historically I have. It's like what you tell me is true. Who am I to investigate, find out? What I've discovered is that a lot of times I find out it's hindsight is 20/20 for me. It's later on. It's like, oh, I didn't put two and two together. Oftentimes, I do take it as face value, Kenny. It's like if brothers tell me, oh, man, I was a hoe back in the day. Okay. If soldier tells me, oh, I went to war. Okay. If a dude tells me he was gangbanging. Okay. Dude tells me that he's a killer. Okay. A girl tells me her father, her uncle, her grandfather, or she was touched by a teeth. Okay. Until I find out later, like, nigga, you know what? Oh, so that's the truth. Oh, so you did.
Know what you just said?
And so what
you just said, Shannon?
Men, it stops with everybody, but I hear it a lot in women. So I take it for face value. I try to be. Who am I? Because I'm not no oracle. I can't look into people's past by touching on their shoulder and getting a fucking full image of their lives. But sometimes, in fact, oftentimes, once you get to know somebody and you let them talk long enough, Ken. You let them, you start putting two to two together, and you be like, well, wait a minute, that didn't add up. And then when you find out later, oh, you forgot that part of the story. Mm-hmm. Oh, you didn't mention that part when you told me what happened. How come? But now you already invested, or something can happen. So I just want everybody to always have a tad bit of skepticism when anybody is telling you this terrible story that they've been through, because oftentimes if you were to investigate, you'd find out that shit don't be true.
You hear what you said? In closing, find out, investigate. So no matter what it is, it would lead you to ask questions and discern whether this person in front of me is valid, or the story that they tell me before I champion it is valid.
Which is why I give shout outs to people like you, Ken, because you help people in financial situations. You may not necessarily be a psychologist or a therapist, but in you turning people's financial woes around in New York, I'm certain that you don't just listen to everybody that come to you and say they broke. It's like, well, okay, you say you are, but before I put you in this program, or before I get you on this particular financial assistance, let me find out. Imagine how many people you find out that was just straight up lying on the application. Same thing. That's why I give,
Most are. That's why I have a saying. It's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to stay there, because I find out rampant in my community, more people are indulging in pride and ignorance, and they're ashamed of showing what they really are. So I have to be discerning. Somebody can't tell me nothing. It's not an off switch. And when somebody tell me something, I don't ask questions to validate their statements, because guess what? I'm held to that same standard. For anything I say, guess what they're going to do? They're going to look for that aha moment. So that's why I try to convey it to the brothers. I can't take nothing at face value. There has to be some kind of investigation and discernment within it. Yeah, but going off the point, JR. I'm sorry, I digress.
But Kenny, I like what you just said. You know, it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. But unfortunately, we have an entire community of people that coddle individuals that allow them to stay there in that place. They don't ever move from it because there's so much coddling and there's so much, you know, allow them to kind of bask in their victimhood rather than, you know, take a moment to reflect and understand that something happened to them and that they're able to kind of persevere right out of it. But unfortunately, we allow people to kind of stay in that position for far too long that it becomes a detriment to their own growth.